Peace, family. You're listening to the Pro-Black Perspective on KWAZ Radio, and today I'm going to read to you another passage from the Book of Power. This one's on page 148, but of course it's available in the preview to the Book of Power as seen in the description below. This one is from our Baba Yosef Ben-Jochannan, and this one I titled "America is a Eurasian Man's Country." Usually, I'll read this afterward. This is the description, the analytical uh, work that I use to contextualize this passage. But I'll read the passage first, and then I'll go back and tell you what it is. So let's see. It's actually pretty short. So let's go to it. And this is obviously you could find this in one of uh, Baba Ben's uh, speeches. I can't remember which one, but if you listen to him enough, you'll see something along these lines. So he says, look, one thing we have to accept and learn at least. This is a Eurasian man's country, whether you fought in 50 wars or not. Now that's a reality. We may feel otherwise because we were born here or because our ancestors were born here in the 1900s, or WP, and that I say WP for without Pan-Africanism, or the 1800s, or because we came here in the 1620s. But this cracker looks at America as his, as a Eurasian thing. He looks at the Amerindian that he took the land from as this land is his. He looks at us that way too. We refuse to accept it, but he looks at it that way. Now, until we're willing to beat him or to kill him, it's going to stay like it is. And we're not willing to kill him. We're willing to kill each other. And until we stop killing each other and kill him, then we can start talking about changing. You have so many black senators, but nothing has changed and nothing is going to change. I could have all of the senators making all the laws, but prominent Eurasian businessmen, even international, can call the U.S. president direct, even as he lays with his wife. But not even the most prominent Ascari misleader can contact the U.S. president. He instead gets to the secretary, to the secretary, to the secretary, and he may get through. What I'm saying is that they have numerous crackers who have a direct line into the U.S. president's bedroom, and they can get him anytime they want. But there's not one black man anywhere in America, and that goes for all of them, who can get the Eurasians leader. I mean, and of course, you can see, just go back to it, America is a Eurasian's country. So I'm going to just give you some context as to what that was about. It's pretty good. It's really something that it really could sink in, particularly given the nature of what happened, on November 7th, 2020, right? Which is of course, the announcement of a new president for the United States. But let's go. Baba succinctly sums up the sentiment that African nationalists need to take regarding the Eurasian world. Their nations are theirs. This is the way, like you have to see that America is a foreign country. When you see that America is a foreign country, you don't really like you can reasonably detach yourself. Uh, Now, you don't. That doesn't necessarily mean to detach entirely, but you can reasonably detach yourself, right? Now, notice the mirror with Garvey, but also notice the solution he suggests. It's bold, but it's also pointless to announce unless you put forth the mechanisms to execute it or organize it in some capacity. And that's what I say is that, you can say, look, you can kill them, but you have to. You could say it. That's bold, okay? But if you're not organizing to be able to do it, because it's a really tough task. Killing 200 million people or thereabouts is a really tough task. Okay? It's a really tough task. You're talking about mechanized warfare and like industrial level, but you're a pre-industrial economy at best. In fact, you're a disorganized pre-industrial economy. So the idea that you can carry out some industrial level, uh, or even post-industrial level war, like war effort, is kind of like bizarre. You know, you're heavily outnumbered in this country. So the idea that you can kill 1 to 1, or like you have to have people who can kill 5 to 1, even more so because you're not going to have that many soldiers. So 10 to 1, 20 to 1, and it's just like what can like it's just bizarre. It's a bizarre idea to be honest. But look, he does elsewhere suggest guerrilla warfare, but even that needs to be considered. So he does. I didn't quote it here because, like again, it's just like what happens after guerrilla warfare? What happens after the guerrilla warfare? Right? Do you assume land in the middle of America and what protects it and keeps it safe? Because you'll still be in the middle of America, right? If emulated the Maroon style in the vein of Kandake Akampong, how long can you hold out for a treaty? You understand? And I ask that because the Maroons, uh, they held out for like 12 years. You understand? Uh, like what kind of patience, what kind of, and that's 12 years of constant warfare, not even just sitting around. It's constant warfare, feeding yourself, political independence, all of that, uh, political, economical, cultural independence, right? If you want to do that, if you want to somehow acquire land and then fight until you get that land from a superpower, you know, then by all in the middle of that superpower, no less, then by all means give it an attempt. But it's almost a fool's errand, right? But we can keep going. This is where a strong Africa comes into play, or is the intent? And that's what I'm saying. Like it's not a fool errand until you have a strong Africa. If you have a strong Africa, then of course you can do this because then a strong Africa can supply you with armaments. A strong Africa can supply you with food. A strong Africa can negotiate on your behalf, right? But without a strong Africa, your attempt at fighting in America is pretty meaningless. So, or is the intent to fight one's way out of America? That's another question. But of course, you can always just travel freely, so it's not like you even need to do that. So these things must be considered and articulated when we discuss these matters, or it's an empty talk. You know, kill. We gotta kill. We gotta fight. It's empty talk unless you're really discussing this thing. Like for instance, there's the classic novel, The Spook Who Sat by the Door, and it portrays an unrealistic guerrilla warfare unit and ends before any resolution can take place. As to say that they just fight, they organize a strong military presence in the middle of some neighborhood, and they fight, and then the book ends. The movie ends. It's like, hey, we started fighting, we initiated the revolution, right? But what happens? What's the post-revolution? What's the resolution? You know, what's the resolution? You know, you, like, do you defeat the American Empire on its own? Like, come on, like, what do you do? How do you do it? A small gang of people just could destroy it. And it's not to say that it's not possible. It's just highly unlikely given the military, like just given the level of militancy that you have relative to America, you know, and the level of industry that you have relative to America, you know. A lot of black people don't even know how to get weapons without buying it directly from the United States. You understand? Like a lot of people don't even like they're not buying it from Russia. They're not buying it from Portugal. They're not buying it from Nigeria. They're not buying it from Rwanda. They're buying it from the United States. So it really behooves to how are you going to supply this 12-year military effort. Uh, it's kind of like what. So as proof to the law of Ma'at shows, and that's another article. War is the response to Isfet, but war has to be towards Ma'at, or one must do a calculus in regard to how that war can lead to Ma'at. All right. So separately, so that's a complicated. War is very instrumental. In real life. Okay. If you see Isfet, you go to war, right? But your war has to be towards Ma'at, and then you have to ask yourself, what is Ma'at in the example of being in a foreign land? You know, because again, one of the things that happened in our distant past was that we did have foreign lands, and then that kind of backfired. Uh, Separately, however, note that Baba discusses the Eurasian elites and the absence of African elites. So this is actually pretty important, right? So the issue with African nationalists has been the absence of African elites trained to be about the African nation. So again, when he describes how the Eurasian can call up the Eurasian leader. Call them up. Even when they're with their wives, right? That's what it means to be an elite. You know, and the thing is that you know the question comes to you is that can you call up the leader? Now he says you can't call the leader of the American nation, no, but can you call up the leader of an African nation? Are you that important? And how can we get you to be that important? That's the question. Because if you have ideas, you should be taking it to those who can execute those ideas. You know, it's kind of like or who can like there's different branches: legislative, judicial, executive. Let's say, right? And that's obviously that's what the Americans say. But the point being though is that there's one branch that executes the law. There's one branch that legislates or writes the law, and there's one branch that judicials or whatever judicates those laws, right? It judges those laws. Now, can you call any of them? Can you call on any of them, whether in America or Africa, right, or in the center of the Oncobia universe? No. And if you can't do that, then that's something that you have to work on. So, I hope that that's kind of a clear reading for you. And I see I don't have any comments. So unless I have any comments, I'm gonna just end the stream because I feel like I might have ended the stream a little early last time. But if nothing else, hopefully you can, hopefully you appreciate this. I'm gonna ask this anybody. Hopefully you can appreciate this, but this is really what it's about when it comes to uh, expressing expressing whose country this is and what you need to do as a people. And of course, he's articulating on the structure of nations. But I see I don't have any questions, so I'm going to tell everybody, Shem Hotep, and you know, good night and good luck.